Thank you everyone for joining today's session. In this session we're going to be diving into the features of Power BI Sentinel and see how by using our solution you can not only elevate your organization's data governance and security strategies, but move towards an overall better picture of enhanced compliance, increased privacy and reduced risk across your Power BI and Fabric environment. So to start, what is Power BI Sentinel? So Power BI Sentinel is a SaaS product that sits alongside your Power BI and Fabric estate and constantly monitors all of the metadata outputs that come out of your estate and are published back to your environment in the form of a relational data model that you can then analyze, explore, and see how you can improve your estate. Now, nobody just wants a data model for a product, so Power BI Sentinel have produced some Power BI template files which plug into this data model and allow you to start exploring the information, the insights that we can provide to you, so you can then action those insights across your organization. As well as these template reports, we also have our online portal. This online portal is where you will do the initial setup of the product, configure any backups and documentation you wish to run, and also see things like in-depth change tracking or documentation or data lineage across the tenant as well. Today we're going to start by looking at the Power BI template files. These are available from our website. Once you become a customer with us, you can download these, connect them directly into the data model stored on your Azure SQL database, and you can begin exploring those. We have two main template files, one of which is called the audit log report, and the second is called the governance report. We're going to start here with the audit log report. This one will give you an overview of all of the user activity across your Power BI tenant. You can see quite literally every single activity that your users have been doing, monitor specific activities, and dive into the really granular activity from across the tenant. Everything that you see within these Power BI reports is fully customizable. They are just simply Power BI template files. We've produced them as a starting point and they are subject to change. So they are constantly updated on a regular basis. We will give you the latest versions, but you are free to change them and do as you wish with these templates. The first page of the audit log report that you can see here shows you an overall summary of the last 28 days. So this shows you things like your top 20 workspaces, your top 20 semantic models, who is doing the most activity in personal workspaces, and then who is creating, editing, and deleting the most as well. So again, you are free to customize these as you see fit, but these give you a good overview of the last month's activity from across the tenant. We can also see a list of our most active and least active users here, and if you wanted to dive into those, we can then explore into individual users. Moving on to the next page, this is the usage analytics view. This page gives you a more deep dive into how your reports and semantic models are being consumed across the Power BI tenant. So the visual in the top left here is views by consumption method. So this shows us quite simply here that most of our consumption is done through the Power BI web portal, as we would expect. However, we also have reports embedded in Microsoft Teams channels, we have them embedded in external web portals, and we also have users exporting our reports externally from Power BI. Now to us, this may be a high risk activity or a high security activity that we need to monitor. With this visual, and this being Power BI, we can select this activity and get an instant list of all of the users in this time frame who have exported reports externally from our Power BI environment. However, if we wanted to then deep dive into this information, we can visit the last page, which is called the Fabric Audit Log. This Fabric Audit Log page will give you a full overview of every single activity from across the entire tenant. So if I wanted to dive into all of the export report activities, I can filter this activity here, and this will give me an instant list of all of the different activities where somebody has exported a report outside of our controlled Power BI environment. This activity list gives us a full view of any activity that can be done. This goes very granular, and because this is the Fabric Audit Log, we also show you Fabric activities as well. So if you wanted to explore who had been creating things like data marts, you can see that activity listed here as well. The audit log has endless possibilities, allowing you to monitor pretty much everything from across the tenant. And so you can use this in a plethora of different business cases and business uses to suit you. However, we take this a step further and we use this audit log data to then provide you business recommendations on how to better provision the security and the access and the licensing across your Power BI environment. And that information is kept on the governance report, which is the next report that we can take a look at. The first thing that you'll see on the governance report is the homepage. This one gives you a list of all of the different report pages that we offer here, and these cover an amazing range of different things, such as your data source lineage, your semantic model refresh history, your full documentation across your estate showing you detailed column and measure usage, your Power Query and any source partitions you may be using. We have your backups history, any unused artifacts across your tenant, and much more going on in this report as well. Like any good report should, we start off with a high-level summary. And this summary gives you a view of the health score of your tenant. We at Power BI Sentinel are fully ISO 27001 certified, and we have decided to take the pillars of ISO, of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and build some scoring metrics to help you relate to those scores and work towards them. So falling under confidentiality, for example, we can see here that our most critical items that we have on our tenants are our inactive users, whereby 52% of our licensed users are inactive and they're not using their licenses. We can also see here we have 8% of our models with row-level security configured. That's not a very large amount. We've got a lot of models without configured RLS. And 60% of our user base have administrative access on a workspace. That is scary levels of over-permissioning there, and a serious security risk to our tenants allowing that many users to have admin access. Among other things on here, 20% of our tenant is unused, and we also have 22 personal gateways. Now these will be running maybe critical semantic models that instead of using the enterprise gateways are using users' personal gateways instead, and that's something that we need to look at. We then score all of these numbers, average them out, and show you how you're working towards compliance and how you rank across your tenant. And these scores will improve as your metrics improve as well. Again, these scores have been built by us as a baseline to compare against. However, if you wish to change these and make these scores more relevant to your business and your organization's goals, you are free to do that as well. So the first page we're going to look at here on this report is the admin to user ratio. So here we're going to explore how we can then better provision the permissions for each workspace. And we can go there to the permissions page on the left-hand side. Now, to find permissions natively within Power BI, you have to go to each workspace and find the list of permissions and see all of the users that sit within there. Here at the workspace level, you can see a list of every single type of object that has access to your tenant. So you see a list of apps here. We also have a list of Entra groups, and then below that all of the individual users. And by workspace you can see every user's access and the level of access they have as well. So if we were to focus on a particular workspace on our tenant, we can take a look at this one here. This will show you the Entra group that has access is called the Power BI Acme group. All of these users are members of that group, and that group has member access to that workspace. Below that, we also give you a full list of users and the individual user access as well. Now this workspace only has one user below contributor level. So that is quite high levels of permissioning across here. We're giving people a lot of access and a lot of freedom to do what they want with these items. So we can probably provision this better. Now, I mentioned before that we use the audit log data to give you recommendations on how to better provision that security. If we were to go to the recommendations tab at the top here, I can again go to that same workspace, and this will now give me a full list of recommended actions based on a preset history of that activity. That preset history is by default 90 days, but that 90 days is a parameter on this report, and you can set that back as far back as you have data with us. Based on that last 90 days of history, we can see that for this user here, for example, the recommendation here is that we remove this user from the workspace because they already have equal access via an AD group. It's always best to keep access provisioned by Entra groups where possible, so our recommendation tells you to remove the users' access themselves. We also have 4 users here where we can just remove them from the workspace because they have not done any activity within the time frame we're looking at. So if they don't need that access, especially admin access, we can then revoke that. We give you these recommendations for every workspace, every user, every group and app across the entire Power BI tenant. As well, you can also view your permissions at app, semantic model level and report layer as well, should you wish to do that. The other element that we can do here is view your Power BI licensing data. If you enable the permissions for us to see your Power BI licenses, we can then extract for every user which type of license they have. So we can see here, for example, we have user Jerry. Jerry has a Power BI Pro license. Again, based on that last 90 days of user activity, our suggested column here tells us that Jerry doesn't actually need a Power BI Pro license. He hasn't done anything to warrant needing a Power BI Pro license, so we can probably reduce him to a free one instead. And again, we give you all of these recommendations for every single user, but what we also do now is give you the potential cost saving benefits of actioning those. And if we were to visit the FinOps page, which is the next one down, we have a licensing view here whereby you can define the cost that you spend on your Pro and PPU licenses, and based on all of the suggested license downgrades in this list, so Power BI Pro to free or Power BI Premium per user licenses to Pro, we can see here we could save $405 a month just from doing the action downgrades on this list. And again, these are not assumed, these are based on real activity data from your tenant. The next page we have on this view is the capacity view for FinOps. And here, this allows us to see all of the premium capacities on our Power BI tenant. And if we define a cost that we pay for the equivalent F64 here, for example, so we are saying here we pay $8,700 a month for our Fabric capacity. This then breaks down all of the workspaces that reside within that capacity and gives us a breakdown of all of the background capacity of each workspace, all of the foreground view consumption of that workspace, gives us a cost benefit index to the organization, and then an apportioned cost of exactly how much that workspace is costing us to run based on your Power BI semantic model usage. And for this top workspace here, called the Acme Industries workspace, this one consumes almost 98% of all of the background semantic model refreshes. So it's by far the most utilized semantic model on our tenant. But it also consumes the most foreground views as well. So all of our users' consumption, or 80% of it, is based on this workspace alone. Based on those measures, we give it an apportioned cost benefit index of 880. For this score, the higher the better you want to see here. Any with a low score, you may want to then remove from a premium capacity and maybe assign them to a shared pro instead. And then from this, we can see the apportioned cost to us on this workspace is $7,370. These are indicative costs, and these are shown to you based on our calculations of how much your semantic models are refreshing, the time they take, against the overall time taken to refresh all of your semantic models on that capacity. Next up, we have one of the core pieces of Power BI Sentinel, which is our data lineage. Our data lineage piece here allows you to see from the source and point of ingestion into Power BI, the data flow all the way through to the end report. So you can see here we have a source type filter at the bottom left, which allows us to filter to any of the source types we have connected to our Power BI tenant. All native connectors will be shown with their icons. Any non-native connectors will also be shown here. They may just not have the icon next to their names. But if we wanted to explore all of our SQL sources, we can then use this decomp tree chart here to then path the flow of the data from data source all the way to the end report. So I can clear these down, and we can then start exploring all of our SQL data sources. I can then explore all of the source tables that sit within this particular data source, and here's all of the tables within there. From here, we can then explore where is this source table being used in our Power BI environment. I could then expand it to see the semantic models that then run from that source table, and then finally the amount of reports that run from that semantic model. So you can build your story flow here to see exactly where your data is being exposed. You could use this to see where sensitive data is being exposed in end reports, or you could see all of the different items that are feeding a specific end report as well. If you wanted to, instead of semantic model and report, you could see all of the workspaces where items were being exposed, and then you could find all of the users that have permissions to that workspace to see who could access this sensitive data. Again, limitless possibilities with the source data view here. We also present you this information in a tabular view, which is on the data sources tab. This one here is quite a busy page. This has a lot of filters here that you can work through. It works in exactly the same way as the other view. We can filter to our source types. We can look for our individual servers, and we can then filter through here to look at databases and source tables within there as well. The beauty of this being Power BI is that we could select a specific report and see all of the source types and items that feed one specific semantic model or report. Next up, we can look at our semantic model refresh history. Power BI Sentinel has a full view of all of the refreshes occurring on your estate for import queries and can show you all of the different refreshes that have happened. So if we hover over this particular instance here, we get a full list of every scheduled refresh. We can see that 8, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, and 3 all successfully refreshed. However, the one at 9 AM failed, and the failure reason was that there was a duplicate value within this table. A lot of our customers use this view to schedule alerts either through Power BI alerting or maybe through something like Data Activator to message a relevant user so that when a semantic model does fall over, one of your data specialists can be alerted straight away to go in and fix that failure. This data is exported to you multiple times throughout the day on our enterprise tier licenses, so you can react to these within a few hours rather than waiting days or waiting for someone to notify you that their data is out of date. The other tab we have on this page is the Refresh Performance tab. This gives you an overview of the duration of all of your semantic model refreshes occurring across the tenant and gives you a bird's eye view should any of these models start taking longer than usual, should they spike in the length of time they take to refresh. You can go in and then explore those refreshes, see do you have any inefficient Power Query or inefficient DAC calculations that may be bogging them down, and action those before they become a problem for your end users. The next item we're going to look at here on this report is the Documentation tab. Now, documentation is one of the largest and most useful elements of Power BI Sentinel. Documentation is limited to premium workspaces only, and those workspaces can either be under a premium capacity or premium per user licenses. You must enable the documentation within our Power BI Sentinel portal, and after you enable that on selected reports and semantic models, we can then deep dive into the Power Query, the DAX measures, the calculations, your columns, and show you exactly how and where those items are being utilized. So here I've got a full list of measures that I can explore. Each measure will bring back the expression that's used to calculate it, the workspace and the model that it's contained within, and also the table and any extra detail that we can bring back. We can use this view to not only see all of our measures on this page here, but I can search for specific measures. In this instance, we can look at total sales, for example. This view will then bring back every mention of the measure called total sales from every semantic model on every workspace, show you the expression used to calculate them, and again, where they're based. Now, in our instance, total sales should be a universal measure. We should only ever calculate that in one way. However, from this view, I can instantly see we have 3 different versions of DAX calculating the same measure. This allows us to then go in and correct these discrepancies and then work towards a single version of the truth across the Power BI tenant for this measure. We can also explore the same level of detail for our columns and also explore all of the data sources used in our Power BI tenant and see any Power Query or SQL query that's used in the source definitions for all of our semantic models. All of this data again is exported to your SQL database, so you're free to explore this and ingest it in any method that you wish to. From this, we can then explore our detailed column and measure usage data. So here on the column usage tab, we can explore all of the columns from across our tenant, which reports and which tables they're used in, but also see how they're being used. So we can see relationships, visualizations, filters, page filters, and you can explore exactly how all of your columns and measures are being utilized across the tenant. Next up, I can show you your endorsements data. So here on endorsements, we have a full view of for all of your semantic models. Have you endorsed them for use among the wider business? Have you certified them for use as master data sets, for example, so that your business users know exactly which data is verified and true and accurate and ready to use? Have we applied sensitivity labels to these semantic models? We have on this one, and we haven't provided row level security on here. If we have configured row level security, as you can see on this view here, we could go to the row level security tab and then explore all of the members in a workspace, all of the models, the RLS role names, and all of the members that fall within those roles. Next, I want to see a full list of all of the unused elements across our organization. You may remember at the start of this video, we saw the health summary scores. That showed us that 20% of this tenant was being unused. Now, unused artifacts is anything greater than 30 days without use will be shown within this view here. And we can see we've got 41 semantic models that haven't been used in at least the last 30 days. Some of these items here are over 2,500 days without use. So you can go through here, you have a full view exactly the last date and time that these items were accessed, and you can then build a business case to go in and have these items removed, or if they're running on premium capacities, have them migrated to a pro workspace instead, so that you're not utilizing your premium hardware and they're not costing you real money to refresh, even though they're not being used. We also are able to give you a full view of your Power BI tenant settings here, so that you can keep track of all of the settings and how they're enabled on your tenant. We do have some customers who utilize this data to again configure alerts to alert them as soon as a setting changes, or as soon as a new setting is added by Microsoft. They are made aware of that and they can go in and verify how that setting should be enabled on their tenant. Personal gateways can be shown here, and we can track all of the personal gateways configured on the tenant. We could track an individual user, and for Joe's gateway here, for example, we have a full list of all of the semantic models that are operating from that personal gateway. And in this case, we have a very well used semantic model here with over 22,000 consumptions on that one. That one needs immediate attention, and we need to migrate that from a personal gateway over to at least an enterprise gateway to ensure that it remains online, it's not affected by that machine being turned off, and that it's always ready to go. Next is our Fabric inventory. This gives you a full view of your Fabric asset inventory here, so you can track anything that's being created in Fabric across your tenants, so your data flows, your notebooks, your SQL endpoints, your lakehouses, all of them can be tracked within this view, and you get a full view of everything here, who's created them, which workspace where they're created in, and are they active or not as well. So as your Fabric consumption increases, you can track all of that utilization as well. We also give you a full view of all of your Lakehouse tables, should you wish to explore those. And Fabric being at the forefront of Power BI Sentinel's development, we're working towards things like notebook documentation and much more Fabric data lineage elements as well, which will be brought into the product in future updates. That completes the high-level summary of the features and data available via our Power BI template files. There is much more to explore behind these template files in the semantic models and in the backing data set as well. You're free to explore those items and see how they can be built into useful business cases for your organization, how you can extract those insights and improve your overall data governance strategy. The other element that we have to Power BI Sentinel is the Power BI Sentinel Portal. Now, we have a dedicated video to this portal which goes into granular detail about all of the different features that are available here. However, I can give you a high-level summary of the portal and its features. If we sign in here using Microsoft Single Sign-On, you will sign into the portal using your Power BI account, and all security is shared with your Power BI tenant. Here you can then go in and schedule things like your backup schedules. Power BI Sentinel offers an automated backup service, which also allows change tracking to be run on here as well. You can schedule all of your workspaces and individual reports and select which ones you wish to be backed up and on what schedule. So you can see here for our PF embedded test workspace, we have a default schedule of documentation and daily report backup. What this means is that every single report by default will be enabled with documentation enabled, which gives you your detailed column and measure usage and your granular data lineage elements. And also, each report and semantic model will be backed up on a daily schedule. We could change that to weekly or run documentation only. Once they are enabled, they will then run on a process, either nightly or weekly, depending on what you've selected, and those backups will be ready to download from the report backup screen, should you wish to recover those files further down the line. The portal also gives you a view of your documentation. So we have one view on the governance report, but if we wish to see documentation for one of our reports on here, I'm going to select our Shark report, for example. This then produces me a full overview of all of the different tables that feed that semantic model, and you can see the cardinality of these tables and how they interact with each other. We also give you a view of the source data set, and if it's got sensitivity labels, paginated, RLS configured, all of the source connectors, the measures that fall within there, and the DAX measures calculation as well. All of the calculated columns within that semantic model, the relationships again presented here with the cardinalities between them, and then we can see the M code used to build that semantic model, and finally a list of all of the columns. And if we select this tab here, this will show us in blue all of the columns that are being used by that semantic model, and in red all of the columns that aren't being used. So you can use this to then go and clear out your semantic models and declutter the items that aren't being utilized. At the top of this page, we also allow this view to be exported either as a PDF or HTML document as well. So you can have offline documentation of all of your semantic models across the tenant. That completes the high-level summary of the features and data available via our Power BI template files. To see the rest of the features available on the Power BI Sentinel portal, we have a dedicated portal user guide video, which will walk you through every feature available on the portal, including change tracking, column search, and data source lineage, and you can see all of the in-depth functionality and how to use those within that video link. If you have any questions about any of the features shown in this video, any features yet to come, or any feature suggestions, please contact us via the website or via help@powerbisentinel.com, and one of the team will gladly discuss these with you.